All right, let's talk about something that's probably in your kitchen right now, hiding in plain sight. We're diving into ultra-processed foods. And I know, you might think you already know the deal with these, but honestly, the real story, the one backed by some pretty mind-blowing new science, it's way more surprising and way more important for our health than most of us ever imagined.
So just think for a second about what you might have eaten today. Maybe a granola bar for breakfast, a soda with lunch, a frozen dinner. They all seem totally different, right? But it turns out they share this hidden identity, one that researchers are now directly linking to some pretty serious health issues. They are all what we call ultra-processed.
So, what are we really talking about here? Because this goes way, way beyond just slapping a junk food label on something. To really get it, we have to use the definition scientists use. And understanding this is the key to, well, everything else we're about to cover.
Okay, so there's this system called the NOVA classification, and it's what scientists use to sort food by how processed it is. According to them, these UPFs are basically industrial formulations. Think about that phrase. They're made from things extracted from food, like fats, starches, sugars, and then they're loaded up with additives that you would never find in your own kitchen. And here's the absolute kicker. They have little to no actual whole foods in them at all.
Now look, it's really easy to hear that and think, yeah, I know, processed food is bad for me. But what you might not realize is the sheer scale of the scientific evidence we have now. We're talking about a mountain of it, from massive global studies that are painting an alarmingly clear picture. Just let this number sink in for a second. That's almost 10 million people. 10 million! That's how many people, in total, were part of the studies included in a huge umbrella review in the British Medical Journal. This is not some small one-off observation. This is one of the biggest, most comprehensive looks at this topic ever done. And this is what they found. I know this chart looks a little crazy, but you don't need to read every line. Just look at the sheer number of connections here. Each one of those dots represents a direct link between eating more ultra-processed foods and having a specific health problem. And in total, this massive review found direct links to 32 different bad health outcomes. 32! And out of all of those connections, the evidence was the absolute strongest, what scientists call class 1, or the highest quality evidence, for a few big ones. A higher risk of dying from heart disease, a higher risk of type 2 diabetes, and then there's this one, which might surprise you, a higher risk of anxiety and other common mental disorders. Let's really zoom in on that last point, because this link between what we eat and our mental health is one of the most powerful and honestly fascinating parts of all this new research. It shows that the impact of these foods goes far beyond our waistlines and right into our brains. We so often treat our physical health and our mental health like they're two totally separate things. But this research is just screaming that they are deeply, deeply connected. What we're eating isn't just fuel for our bodies. It's literally feeding our brain and shaping how we feel every single day. So how strong is the connection? Well, one huge review that focused only on depression found a really powerful link. They saw that people who ate the most ultra-processed foods had a 20 to 50% higher risk of developing depression. I mean, that is a massive, significant connection. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves put it in no uncertain terms. Their final conclusion was that, yes, eating more of these foods is significantly associated with a higher risk of depression. This isn't just a theory anymore. It's a scientific conclusion. Okay, so that leads to the big question, right? Why? How on earth can a bag of chips or a soda influence something as complicated as our mood or our mental state? Well, the answer seems to lie in this incredible, bustling world that exists right inside of us. It all comes down to what scientists call the gut-brain axis. The easiest way to think about it is like a super busy two-way highway that runs between your gut and your brain. The trillions of tiny microbes that live in your gut are constantly sending messages up to your brain that can influence, well, everything from inflammation to your mood. And the food you eat is what determines which of those little guys get to thrive. And when you look at it this way, the difference is just night and day. A diet based on whole foods, fruits, veggies, whole grains, is packed with fiber and nutrients. It nourishes all those good gut bacteria. But an ultra-processed diet, it does the exact opposite. It's low in the good stuff and full of weird additives, sugars, and fats that can mess up that delicate balance and promote inflammation, disrupting that critical gut-brain highway. So, after going through all this evidence, from the massive studies with millions of people all the way down to the tiny microbes in our gut, what's the big picture here? What are we supposed to do with all this information?
Let's just boil it down to the essentials. First, the evidence connecting these foods to poor health is absolutely massive, and it's only getting stronger. Second, this isn't just about physical health. The impact on our mental health is one of the clearest findings. And third, a huge reason this all seems to be happening is because these foods are messing with that all-important communication line between our gut and our brain.
And that really leaves us with one final and I think really important question. Look, this isn't about blaming anyone for their choices. The science is very clear that these foods are literally engineered to be hyper-palatable, meaning impossible to resist, and they're marketed to us constantly. So, knowing that, the real challenge for all of us is to ask ourselves, how can we start to navigate this modern food world just a little more mindfully?